honourable member for Ponoka-Didsbury.
Well, thank you very much, Speaker. I'll be splitting my time with the member for Carlton Trail Eagle Creek. And I'm happy to stand today and represent the fine folks of Ponoka-Didsbury, and I'm happy to report that my leader doesn't yell at me in caucus meetings and listens to all of my concerns when I bring them to his attention. And I humbly rise to speak against this piece of government legislation, Bill C-20, the Build Canada Homes Act. This Liberal Prime Minister and his government have been big on their promises over the last year, much like they're big on their bureaucracy, big on their spending, and creating big-time failures. This piece of legislation is a fraction of the action off the back end of a big promise that guarantees big bureaucracy, big spending, and an even bigger deficit. When elected to a minority government last year, the Prime Minister said he was going to build, baby, build. But oh baby, he hasn't built a thing. The situation, how did we get here, Mr. Speaker? Well, through broken promises and the promotion of failure. Failing upwards is all that we're seeing, it seems, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister ran an election campaign on a promise to double our home building construction to 500,000 homes a year and to move at speeds we haven't seen in generations. Not seen before, because you can't see anything moving when nothing's moving, Mr. Speaker. There's nothing to see. Who did the Prime Minister handpick to help him deliver on this of most of the housing completions in Canada, this promise to complete the most housing completions in Canadian history? Well, he chose the member for Vancouver, Fraserview, South Burnaby, who, when he was the mayor of Vancouver, listen to this, raised development charges by 141%, increased the price of homes by 149%, watched the average rent jump by 50%, and saw homelessness increase by 38%. Wow. Talk about failing upwards. Under his watch, Vancouver became one of the most expensive markets in North America, but it's not just one of the most expensive markets in North America. One of the most expensive markets in the world. This is who this Liberal Prime Minister tasked with delivering on this housing crisis. The same minister who said on day one of the job that home prices in this country don't need to come down at all. No wonder homes aren't being built in this country, Mr. Speaker. Nothing is. There is a theme here. No homes, no pipelines, no energy projects, no infrastructure. The Prime Minister can't get anything built. Over a year since the PM's grand promise to build 500,000 homes a year, and the result is in fewer permits, fewer starts, and a housing crisis that is rapidly becoming a nightmare. The Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, one of the government's 4 housing bureaucracies, has declared that Canada must build between 430 and 500,000 homes per year for up to a decade to restore 2019 levels of housing affordability. The Prime Minister promised he'd build these 500,000 homes a year, and he said a big proponent of this building would be done through his new Crown Corporation, Build Canada Homes. However, the reports since that promise suggest that Build Canada Homes only has the capacity to build up to about 400,000 homes across 6 different Canadian cities. This is a mere 1% of the Liberals' original home building promise of 500,000. Where will the other 496,000 homes come from, if not from this new $11.5 billion agency? These 6 sites across the country aren't even new announcements. I'll remind everyone, each and every project is an old project that the Canada Lands Company, one of the government's other housing bureaucracies, were already working on. The government has taken these sites and reintroduced them under a new agency and is calling it progress. It's not progress, it's an abject failure. No new homes are being built. It's an expensive photo op, just like the fake construction site the Prime Minister spent $35,000 on last September when he announced this very Build Canada Homes project in Ottawa, a fake solution to a very real Liberal housing crisis. The CMHC says that housing starts in Canada are projected to drop from 270,000 this year to 212,000 by 2028. National housing starts will drop by 18.1% over the next 2 years as developers are facing skyrocketing building costs. Yikes. This is an issue that's compounding. Every day it gets worse, and we simply don't have any more time to waste. A year after that 500,000 homes a year promise, and we're seeing a catastrophic collapse in the market. Speaker, maybe the Prime Minister's new Major Projects Office that hasn't approved a major project yet will take this lofty goal on. The problem here is delivery. Deliverology isn't working for this guy. The Prime Minister promised to build at speeds never seen before, at a generational speed. But here we are, a year into his term, and we're just now debating this Bill C-20, which only has the capacity to build 1% of the homes the government promised to build. The minister said a key component of Build Canada Homes is to speed up housing construction. Well, he's not off to a very good start, Speaker. It took him nearly a year just to bring legislation to this House that is still not getting anything done. In recent years, the CMHC's data, the government's own data, shows that the housing starts are falling in this country, and they will continue to fall nationally this year and next. The Canadian Real Estate Association says that national home prices have increased 2.2% from this time last year. The average home price has increased in every province across Canada. The territories have seen a worse fate. The average home price in the Yukon has increased by over $80,000 from this time last year. The housing crisis is not getting better, Mr. Speaker. It's spiraling out of control. And what is the government's solution? More bureaucracy, more consultants, more photo ops, and more broken promises. Mr. Speaker, the job of His Majesty's loyal opposition is to hold the government accountable, to promote sound policy and correct the government when it needs correction. You'd think their job would be to listen, but that hasn't been working. The role of the opposition is integral to the function of Parliament and plays an even more important role in the rightful minority Parliament that the Liberals were elected to last year. This job as opposition was given to us by over 8 million voters across the country. Our leader has been clear: we will oppose bad policies and we will support good ones. This policy is bad policy. It's expensive. It doesn't deliver any new homes. It pays bureaucrats and consultants and duplicates the work that several other federal housing agencies already do. It's needless. When the housing minister took office as the mayor of Vancouver in 2008, the average price of a detached home in the city was $942,000. On his last day in office, that same home price had soared to $1.8 million. This is the same theme we're going to see nationally. Home prices have remained at unattainable values and costs. There's no buyers, there's no sellers, and there's no new builds, and there is no market. The Liberal response is an $11.5 billion housing agency that maybe has the potential to build up to 4,000 homes. My honourable colleague from Parry Sound Muskoka has offered a substantive good housing policy that will move the needle and get homes built across the country. But the housing minister won't listen. He's stuck in his ways, the same ways that saw Vancouver become the most unaffordable housing market in North America and one of the most expensive in the world. Conservatives do not support adding more bureaucratic red tape to our already highly regulated housing sector. What we do support and what we've encouraged the government to do are these things. Cut the GST on all new homes under $1.3 million. In turn, this will save families up to $65,000 on the purchase of a new home and unleash new building in every market across the country. Tie federal infrastructure dollars to home building to incentivize construction and new builds. Municipalities must permit at least 15% more home building each year in order to receive federal infrastructure spending. Cut development charges by 50%. The Liberals promised during this last election campaign but refused to deliver. This would lift a massive fiscal anchor off the backs of Canadian builders and allow them to do what they do best: build houses. And the capital gains tax on reinvestments in new housing in Canada, which will unlock billions of dollars of investments in our country's home building sector. Mr. Speaker, these are substantive, difference-making policy proposals for our housing sector, but they're met with crickets on the government benches. The GST tax cut on all new homes under $1.3 million, for example, is a policy proposal that building experts, both Liberal and Conservative, have been calling for over a year now as a policy that will actually enact change. The housing minister isn't listening. In fact, last summer, the minister on a podcast referred to our proposed GST tax cut as a big, large, sweeping change to make. Under this government's watch, Canada is facing a housing crisis that we have not seen since the Second World War. Instead of rising to the occasion, the government has failed and has made things even worse. Maybe big, large, sweeping changes are exactly what we need to get Canadians into the houses that they want. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.